don't know why I just took my seatbelt off. That was stupid.
They say that the most dangerous person in the world is someone who's got nothing left to lose. Well, guess what? You've created us, and we've got nothing left to lose because we're not going to stay here like this ever. We're coming for you. That's right. And you know what?
You guys been following me?
You know what? If anyone's been following me, they would know that I've been towing the line.
No comment.
I've been a reporter. Yeah. I've been doing everything right. Well, guess what? The gloves are coming off. We are coming!
I don't know about you, that sounds so much better than Dan Andrews. Dan Andrews. And here she is.
Not hearing much of that these days.
Monica.
Oh, God.
I love that.
Yeah,
I really did.
That was fun.
Thank you so much for being on. We're really on it. Well, I am. I don't know about Damien, but I'm really
Yeah,
honoured
no,
that you're on.
I am too.
I really think. I think brave voices in this time are just a godsend. So I'm going to jump in. Can you tell us, there's one thing that everyone kept asking. Why were you on that side of the car when you got arrested?
It's so funny that people haven't figured out that the phone does the whole mirroring thing. So no, I don't have an expensive VW American style car. It's just I'm just
a Mustang.
Yeah,
a Mustang.
it's just a normal car. Yeah.
Yeah. And can we say I've always wanted to know, what was it like to be in jail? Because I'm taking it you hadn't been in jail before.
No, not even close. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like? Okay. Well, look, I love an experience. I love a story, you know, and even when I was in there, I said to myself, well, from now on, around a dinner table, when people say, well, what's the craziest thing that's happened to you? Well, I know what my story is always going to be. So I thought that's a cool thing. You know, not many tax-paying, law-abiding citizens get the chance to experience prison and come out more or less unscathed. So I was in solitary confinement the entire time. So I got no time outside, no breeze, no sunshine for 22 days. So
You got no time outside in 3 weeks?
no.
So there's no exercise yard or anything?
No, the exercise was 3.5 meters by 3 meters. So that was 4 steps, and then I had to turn around and go back the other way. So
you're talking
I did,
Steve
yeah.
McQueen, Papillon stuff.
I mean, look, it was comfortable enough though. I'm not going to say I was warm. I had clothes. The food was okay, and it was safe. And you know, it could have been worse. I've stayed in worse hostels, honestly, but I just couldn't leave. So that's
You didn't think about starting to write your, political manifesto while you're in there, like some other alt-right cult figures have throughout history?
Well, for the first 12 days, I had
Monica
no
Kampf.
TV, so yeah. Oh no, I actually did write a book. So haha. But
In 3 weeks.
well, yeah.
I'm really
I'd
jealous
already,
now. I was jealous
I
before,
already
but now
started,
3 weeks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had nothing to do for 12 days. Like there was no TV, no books, no nothing, literally nothing. So I had nothing to do. And I was fasting as well. So I decided to fast for 12 days. And so I had.
Okay. You went the
nothing
Sinn
to do.
Féin angle as well, like not going
Was
to.
that like a hunger strike thing?
No, I've done a 10-day fast before, and I really like doing them once a year. And I thought, well, there's no parties or cheese boards in prison, so I may as well do it now.
So when you said the food was really good, you just looked at it?
Yeah, well, the funny thing is they told me that if you don't take the food and pretend to eat it, then we're going to think that you are going on a hunger strike, and you might go to the psych ward. So I actually had to take the food and pretend to eat it or throw it in the bin, and then so that happened. But yeah, there was the other 10 days, of course, that I had food. So
Did you have like bars on the doors? Could you actually see out, or was it just like like a closed steel door with a little slit across?
Yeah, it was like a metal door. You couldn't see through it, and there was only this little opening about this much, and it was at waist height. It wasn't even at eye height. So if you wanted to see anything, you had to. But they had to open it. So the noise of the keys opening that little trap door is, pretty much engraved in my head. And everything is through that little trap door. So they never open the door. at all. So you're kind of like a dog, but there was a window. And so I saw some rabbits outside and some birds, and the sun would set in my bedroom window at about 4 to 5 p.m. And so if there was no clouds, I would put my head against the glass and try to get some vitamin D through double glazed window. But, that's what I did.
Monica, did you wonder at some point, you must have said, how did it come to this? I mean, had you expected that any chance that you would be locked up for your political beliefs?
Not before COVID, but at the beginning of when people started speaking out, people were getting arrested for incitement. So getting arrested wasn't like, I actually had almost a premonition of it 3 days earlier. So I actually was mentally prepared for it, specifically prepared for it. I had even prepared my partner for it 3 days beforehand. So it's kind of crazy that it happened.
But you didn't know how long you were going to be locked up for, did you, at that stage? Either once you, yeah?
No, but I knew I wouldn't sign bad bail conditions. So I was like, when they read out the bail conditions, I already knew what I was going to do. There was not really a question, and they made it really easy for me not to sign them because they were just insane. So,
well,
so you were there.
That's not alone. I've had another woman wanted to come on. She's talking to our lawyer at the moment. She had the same thing. She was just a normal protester, and they kept giving her these horrendous bail conditions. And then we interviewed a guy from Bairnsdale who was assaulted by 5 police, and he was in jail with broken ribs and a broken hand for 30 hours. He was given the same, these ridiculous bail conditions that he refused, and finally they turfed him out. But so it's a common practice. But in your case, of course, you held up. And is it 3 weeks? How long exactly was it?
Yeah, 22 days. So just over 3
But there must have
weeks.
been a point, you were there at Her Majesty's leisure, so you didn't have a sentence, so you didn't know how long it was going to be, especially if you lost your faith in the system. What did you think?
Yeah.
What were the possibilities?
Oh, that's true. Well, I was every bit prepared to stay in there until November 10th, which is when my next date is. So when I decided not to sign the bail conditions, that was at that time the worst case scenario. But I was pretty sure that we were going to appeal. So for the first week and a half, I had no idea how long I'd be in there for. And then we tried to negotiate with the police outside of court, and that didn't work. And so then we appealed to the Supreme Court, and I was pretty confident, to be honest. And I don't know why, but I was pretty confident that I would get out that day, and I did.
So do you think they were using the system to punish you?
Pardon?
Do you think they were using the system to punish you? Punishment was just the use of the system?
I think they wanted me to sign the ridiculous bail conditions and delete my entire website and all my community groups. I think I played their bluff, to be honest. And I don't think that's what they wanted to happen at all, because instead of silencing me, they've just made me way louder.
So they totally underestimated your resolve. That's it. Underestimated, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they probably don't realize the support that I have, the family networks. They don't understand my past and my family culture and heritage. So yeah, I would say they didn't expect me to do that.
Faith plays a big part in your life, doesn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, it does now. It hasn't always. I tried out.
Now.
Yeah.
So it's a road to Damascus type conversion. Is that what we're talking?
It was something like that. And that'll all come out in the book. So
yeah.
I'm crying.
You don't just wake up sort of being able to confront these sorts of situations. It takes a lot of growth and learning and pain to get to this point. So yeah, it wasn't an accident that I was ready for it. And like I said, I was prepared for it literally 3 days beforehand. So it was like I was ready to go, basically.
It's interesting, the word faith, we were talking about this before all this happened. You never heard the word, or if you did, it was like, oh, they're a bit of they're a happy clapper or something. Now, a lot of people talk about faith a lot, and a lot of people talk about a spiritual war going on between good and evil. It's really interesting. We've actually have a priest that comes here on Wednesday nights. Last Wednesday night was a huge show. It's just this little priest who refuses to be silent. And he's coming on Wednesday night.
It took us 6 weeks to find him, mind you, didn't it?
Yeah, it took 6 weeks to find him because the priests are basically suppressed as well.
I would like to meet him, just FYI. After the show, we'll have to.
Yeah, you got it, Father Rizzo. Yeah, oh man,
you love him. He's great.
He's the bomb. He's the bomb.
He's critical of the Pope, everything.
But yeah, so faith, we have no problem talking about faith now. I think it's really important because there's something at the moment, what's going on with Dan Andrews, literally the Australian spirit is under attack. The spirit of Australia. Forget about the economics and everything's mental health. The actual spirit of Australia is that's what they're trying to crush, which I think is devastating and terrifying for the children coming after that. You know, that they're going to have to fight to get it back because we're just letting it go. Well, not all of us, but yeah.
No, but it's amazing. I think a lot of different faiths are coming together, and spiritual people and all different types of faiths are actually coming together for a common fight, which I think is really beautiful to see. I think people have become less judgmental because we have this fight, which is for freedom, because without freedom, we can't fight the little stuff anyway. So everything else has kind of gone by the wayside. And once we get our freedoms back, we can start fighting again if we want to. But until then...
what is freedom to you? Because that's an interesting thing that we get asked a lot. What is freedom to you?
Freedom to me is if I want to put myself at risk of some disease or anything, whether it's smoking or drinking, or that should be my choice, even if it's a bad choice, it should be my choice, and it should be everyone's choice. So you can empower people to make good decisions, but you can't force them to make them. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Lead a horse to water, can't make it drink. So it's and choice, I think, that's what I believe is the fundamental freedom of all the other freedoms is choice. You know.
Yeah. But choice without coercion is different. Like I find a lot of people who are sort of they don't want to take the COVID vaccine. They can actually also be quite judgmental towards people who have decided to take the vaccine. So we both have to be prepared to live by what we say. If we are pro-choice, let's show that in actuality. But what I would say to someone who gets the vaccine is, I just hope it was your choice. That's all I hope. I hope it was actually your choice and not someone else's. That's the problem.
It gets very difficult to keep that equanimity, though, doesn't it? When people like the president of the AMA comes out on national television and says that the unvaxxed should just waiver any right they have to be treated in a hospital.
Yeah.
Yep.
It makes it hard to continue.
That's the answer to that one.
Well, it makes it hard to continue to have equanimity, So one side's being asked to keep their equanimity, but the other side's allowed to say what it likes on a public medium broadcast across the country.
Yeah, being the bigger person isn't easy, but it doesn't mean it's still the right thing to do. It's not fair either, but it's still the right thing to do. And at the end,
is that Pastor Joe Masiti's message? You've been on that. That's a faith message he has, isn't it? Pastor John Masiti?
I'm not sure.
Right,
maybe I have heard it around.
Yeah. He's been doing a vigil to a protest, basically.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
Can I ask, what were the people looking after you in jail? I mean, prison officers, whatever they were. Did they see you as like some people look at us as idiots, or were they actually sympathetic? Were they actually ashamed? What was there?
They were more than sympathetic. They were pretty much fans. So. Yeah,
that's
great.
You became a celebrity.
Yeah. It was they were very, very, very nice to me. There was at least one or two that were obviously like encouraging what I've done and encouraging me to keep doing it. And so they treated me extremely well. Like I can't complain.
And you were a political prisoner. Like, let's be honest, you're a political prisoner, correct? In Australia. Now, free country, we have a political prisoner. Would you classify yourself as that?
Well, it's hard.
Or are you allowed to?
I'm allowed to say what I want, really, but more or less. But look, everything indicates that I was, because the bail conditions, they wanted me to completely stop doing my political work. The bail conditions were literally designed to stop me speaking. At all. And at the time, I was the vice president of a newly formed political party, and they wanted me to stop opposing the government. Okay, that is literally the job of a competitor party. How the heck could I continue my work? I had 7 staff at the time. They all would have lost their jobs, just like that, because they didn't want me to be talking anymore. So it's kind of a compliment that they went through. And
what did they fear about you? You mean, it's...
I
know you were growing, but it's not like you were going to take out the entire Labor Party in one go,
Well, I think it's the community groups that kind of really startled them the most. So I was doing a lot of speaking and live streaming, getting in views, no big deal. But then I started creating community groups around Australia. And now we have close to 100, I think. And some of the groups have up to 180 vetted members in them. And
Wow.
this is power that is absolutely invaluable. You can't track how well it works. You can't imagine the empowerment, the support, and everything they're doing. Like you said, they're trying to break our soul and our spirit, and how humans get energy is with other humans, right? So everything that they were doing, they were trying to break us apart. These community groups brought people together, and I think that's when they really
that's what they were scared of.
But the group,
Monica, could you say the system fears popular right? It fears populism coming from the centre right. It locked up Pauline Hanson as well, and that was the Liberal government that locked up Pauline Hanson. So she spent time in jail.
Say it fears the opposition of the narrative, and that's what these groups are. So we don't define ourselves as right or left or whatever, and there's like totally different people in those groups, but they all have one thing in common, is that they disagree with the narrative of the Cho directions and the COVID. That is the danger.
You don't think that has a left bias? You don't think that has left-wing totalitarianism about it?
It doesn't make any sense to. It shouldn't, but it unfortunately, people obviously have put the two things into different camps. But I don't really want to do that, because in the protest groups there is like all different types, you know.
Yeah,
and
there
I
is.
think, you know that the left, they've been hijacked by their own problems, and so yeah.
But that's true of Brexit as well. Like, there's so many Labor voters that voted for Brexit, as well as Conservative voters that voted for Brexit. They're just frightened of populism itself, which they can't control. Trump would probably be similar as well in that respect.
Yeah, well, they imagine if we didn't have censorship, and imagine if we could gather and travel, whatever we're doing would be like 100-fold. I can't imagine how big this show would be. How big everything would be. They're doing a good job, but they're not going to succeed, because good always prevails, right?
Well, we've been censoring. I mean, we've got our this is our censor thing here. Where is it? It's just to stop us with the censor.
Works every time.
But and I can't believe we're still on. You know what I mean? It's been the YouTube's giving us another ban, but the censor. These are things that really I don't understand. I don't know if I'll throw it to you. Is why Australia is suddenly not that bothered by the censorship. I mean, basically, scientists have been censored, doctors have been censored, priests have been censored. YouTube, Facebook seems to have backed off since the big lockdown, where they went off they seem to have. There's a joke going around that all the fact checkers weren't vaccinated, so they've all lost their jobs. So there's, but why do you think Australians are so basically willing to go along with it? I'm talking about the majority with the censorship, or not even aware that the censorship is happening.
Well, I think that's the problem. I don't think they're aware, because they would need to be on an alternative media channel to know that something's being censored. So, and also they've made up their mind that they believe what the government's saying. And so, of course, they're just going to keep looking for content that reiterates what they already believe. And if they started thinking differently, then they would have to admit that they were coerced and brainwashed, which is like a kind of confronting thing to come up with. And then everything that you thought before, you have to start questioning. It's a massive journey to go down that level. So I think they've made up a decision and they're backing it up, even though they didn't actually make the decision, but they don't realize that. They think that it's their own choice, but it's a genius coercion. It's just hard to confront that you're wrong.
Yeah, well, that's that saying by Mark Twain, isn't it? It's easier to fool the people than convincing them they've been fooled. Can we go back to before you did this? You were the journalist. You're passed as a journalist, and how you got started, because you've been pretty out there. Could you tell us something about that?
Well, I started doing hobby journalism when I was traveling alone in America, Asia, South America, sorry, and I just picked up a camera and just started doing it. And
what were the stories that interested you?
Oh, I went to orphanages and I made like little promotional videos for them. I interviewed just like workers and asked them what it was like to live there and work there, and hairdressers, and just anyone who wanted to talk to me. And in America, I went to a hurricane disaster zone. I worked on the opioid crisis. I even went to like Parliament in Florida booked, and I made them a video to help with an opioid crisis sort of project that they were working on. And I just found myself I was in a coup in in Ecuador, and I got stuck in a part of Ecuador, and I didn't have my passport, and I had to get all this stuff, and I journal.
Wow.
I reported on all of that. Got stuck in a hotel, hearing bombs going off and stuff. So, they claim that they don't think I'm a reporter, and I'm like, well, you can't really just like I don't know if your reporters have been to Ecuador and been in a coup, but sorry, my cat is.
Oh, what you're talking about, the Channel 7, Channel 9, super duper, reporters, yeah.
I don't think going to university makes you necessarily a journalist or not, but yeah.
Oh, well,
So that's how I
they're
got
being hit by
started.
pizzas and a Coke bottle, so, they are really suffering lately.
That was the
Those
shame,
tradies are a good shot with a pizza. There's, but with the opioid epidemic, that's really interesting in America. From what I've seen about that, is that basically that's been pushed through doctors, which is literally very similar to what's happening now.
Well, actually, I can just tell you real quick. So 1980s, they actually brought out this new campaign for the doctors that they had to ask their patients what their pain level was when they left the appointment or the operation or something like that. And doctors actually got incentivized financially the lower the pain was for the customer, right? The patient. And at the same time as this new incentive came in, so did the Purdue Pharma painkillers, that were totally effective and non-addictive and amazing, right? So it was in the doctor's best interest to give them as many painkillers as they possibly could, so they had no pain. So they ticked a low number on the form, and the doctors got money for it. So that kept going until until the 2000s almost, until people realized what was going on. And in that time, literally every single person knows someone who's been addicted to painkillers in America.
Yeah.
Well, the pharmaceuticals were allowed to advertise too in the 80s. They were actually allowed to advertise.
Yeah, and now we're just trusting them with everything and thinking that they have our best interests at heart. Okay, yeah.
That's an interesting thing of the trust of big pharma. When you just have to look back through history, like just what you just talked about then, and thalidomide and other things. The trust astounds me.
Smoking was good for us until the 70s.
Do you ever think, we talked about this before, do you ever think a lot of people just want to have tranquil lives, and they build these tranquil lives on myths that make them feel safe? And a lot of that is trusting in things that they can't really trust, which is like, I'm a big fan of some of the priests that we're working with at the moment, but the church itself got away with a lot of bad stuff because people needed to trust that it was a good organization, and yet evil men got within it and did some terrible things, Do you think,
why are we so trusting, or is your question?
Do you think it's why are we so trusting? I'm getting better at asking questions. They sort of drift off, and I just end up
that's all right. We got there.
Diarrhea.
I think that we are so distracted in our lives that we don't have much time to actually think for ourselves. So think about it. When you're at home, you've got the TV on or you've got the radio. When you're in the car, you've got the radio on or you're making a phone call. No one just sits with their own mind anymore, including myself. I still have to tell myself to do it too. But when you just sit alone with your thoughts, you figure things out. Like you just do. You don't even realize what you're figuring out, but you do. So I think people just need to take more time away from distractions and allow their mind to figure things out. And I think they would understand who to trust more, because they would actually dissect their day. I have this theory that your brain is like a filing cabinet, and every day different files go into your brain, and you need to sort through it, and you need to decide which files to keep and store or which ones to throw out that are useless. But if you never think about the file, or you never go through the filing cabinet, it just gets all jumbled up in there and confused, and you don't know what the heck you're doing. So
that's really interesting. Because the other thing too is conversation, actual meeting conversation, which isn't just texted conversation. And at the moment, with the masks on, lots of people are frightened to speak. I mean, you're in supermarkets. People don't generally just smile at I don't know how many conversations you ever started in a supermarket, but it's very difficult to start conversations with people now because all you can see is the eyes,
Well, that's a really good point. The other day I was at the supermarket and there was this gorgeous little kid, and I think it was a he, but it was very pretty. Could have been a girl. It was just a really cute kid. And he turned around and just gave me the biggest smile and just waved like, you know, and it was because I wasn't wearing a mask.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was the only person that the kid could see not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And I was just like, whoa. It just hit me like a ton of bricks. These poor kids.
Wow, that's really sweet. Yeah.
So what are Reignite Democracy's political aims?
Well, we didn't know that it was going to be as big as it is now, obviously, but we're pretty much just a lobby group now. So any candidate or party that we think are aligned with freedom, we will basically support them with our audience base and our email bases and also our community groups. So we really support UAP, United Australia Party, Craig Kelly, but we also talk to the Great Australia Party, IMOP, all the other smaller parties. I'm in communication with all of them. I like them all.
What's your relationship with Craig Kelly? I saw you did an interview with him. What's the relationship with Craig Kelly?
Well, I interviewed him first time, I think, in November last year, and we've just stayed friends. I actually see him as like a bit of a mentor now. It's kind of like a father-daughter sort of kind of relationship, to be honest. So he gives me a lot of time, and I ask him for advice, and he gives me non-biased advice that isn't necessarily in his best interest, but in mine. So he's really proven himself to me as just like a human being. That's more important to me than what we might be doing down the track.
Yeah.
I thought you two were coming together and forming some sort of an alliance, which I thought might have been clever because you would stop cannibalizing the vote that's going to split from the major parties, because that's what the little parties will do. They'll cannibalize the vote. But it's not necessarily an alliance like that, is it?
Well, it's more like, so RDA is a lobby group, and then with the committee members, we started RDA Party, which was separate, but obviously it grew from each other. But so RDA Party has joined UAP, which means that we just basically said, you know what, UAP is doing it better. They're the winning team. We're just going to join them. And now RDA as a lobby group is free to lobby for whoever they want. And the members just got refunded and they can join UAP if they want or not if they don't. And the candidates that applied with RDA Party will have first go at UAP. So they were very respectful of that joining situation and really happy about it, obviously. And on your point about, bastardizing the vote, I do see your point, but also like there's so many different people in this country that maybe having GAP there and having IMOP there who concentrate on different things is good, because we just need a few more people to make balance of power, and then it changes everything. So
you could be supporting lots of different little parties in the same electorate potentially, though.
I would probably have to choose. Look, I've never had a lobby group in politics before in my life, to be honest. I didn't even know who.
Can we back up there for a sec? Can you just, because look, I've steered away from politics all my life. I've literally had nothing to do with it. And now suddenly you're having to learn. Can you tell for all the idiots and drongos like me, what is a lobby group? What's the difference?
Well, I just think, I don't even know, to be honest, either. Like I said, I was just about to say, I didn't know anything about politics until COVID. I didn't care. So it's maybe it's partly my fault that we're in this mess, because I was a young person and I didn't care. I just voted with whoever I read about on the day.
Politics has come and found us all. I have so many people complaining. I just want to go back. I don't want to know about it. And people have got no choice now but to engage politically, really.
Yeah. So that's pretty exciting that people are learning now, by the way. But I would say, as what I mean by a lobby group is that we have people on the ground willing to work hard for a good candidate, whether it be letterbox dropping, truth, etc. But also we take a particular topic, like let's say we're going to be really passionate about the water rights for farmers. We might do a campaign for that, or we do petitions and we email. We have like campaigns where we email out all the MPs, or we do letterbox drops, stuff like that. So we can lobby for whatever we want, based on if it follows our guidelines. I guess that's what I mean by it.
Yeah, that's clever. We actually think. I was just going to say, I actually think it's very. It'd be great to unite all these little things happening. There's people wanting to work with us. I mean, we're just making it up as we go along, but actually, we've got a big following now, and it's great to work with people like yourself. And we've had other candidates come on just to meet them, because you come on like an Australian, sit down, just have a chat like in a cafe and a bar, and actually get to meet someone, rather than this little grab you have on TV where they're either, because I read something about you before you came on, and what did say goes, oh, she's a reality show wannabe, and I'm thinking, what's the reality show? Getting pepper sprayed? What is it?
Well, I applied for Survivor like when I was 25, so.
Oh, so that's what they're using against you.
Yeah.
It was Jack Painter in the, Murdoch Press did a hit piece on you. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't Bachelor. I mean, it could have been worse. It could have been Big Brother or something, but it was...
He missed the point of the article, though. The point of the article should have been about the fact that you'd spent 22 days in solitary confinement.
As a political prisoner.
As a political prisoner, but that was just a joke. That was an aside in his article.
Sorry, Damien, I did take over your question, so I gave you...
No, I just wanted to know if you'd met Clive Palmer. Yeah, I just wanted to know, because obviously we learn... No, okay. Because we learn a lot about Clive, but it's through the media, through the mainstream media, and that's obviously filtered and, it's... treats him as a bit of a buffoon, but obviously he clearly knows something. He keeps coming back with political campaigns, and he's doing pretty well with Craig Kelly.
We'd love to get him on, just have an hour chat and let people actually meet him, because the only time you see him in the media, they just make fun of him, and he just does video. Otherwise, they're just attacking him like, There was in his last interview, I saw a journalist just going after him, like a piranha, and I thought, why isn't that journalist going after Dan Andrews with the same ferocity?
Because it's just like frowned upon, and for some reason that'd be a great idea. It'd be great to have a casual chat with him to really get to know him. I guess I'm really close with Craig Kelly, and I'm trusting his judgment a little bit, on a lot.
Craig Kelly too. Craig Kelly's we're a big fan of Craig. Oh, I'm a big fan of Craig
he'd talk to you.
Yeah, and the speeches that he does in Parliament. The saddest thing was that last speech he did where he was tearing up. And then straight as he's finished, there's this little guy comes up totally unaffected. Like, just like not one empathetic freaking trigger in his body going off. And he's just, and he's just thinking, wow.
That's why I don't want to run.
Well, he has a real opportunity to ride that populist wave. It actually has an opportunity to ride the populist wave. They're going to run in every seat, every federal seat.
I think they could
51 candidates. That's a pretty serious undertaking.
Yeah.
Well, if there is a time for a protest vote / revolution in Australia, it is now. And if it doesn't happen now, maybe Australians don't mind being controlled,
Well, the establishment would have to be very concerned. They'd have to be very concerned. I don't think they'll put Kelly in jail, will they? Craig Kelly? You can go that far.
I didn't think they'd put me in jail either, so I don't know. Everything's up for grabs right now. Like, look at me, I'm so innocent looking, a female, like, it's just like they didn't think it through or something. Like, I don't know.
People like Dan Andrews always talk about getting more females into the parliament. Do you think that's the way to approach it?
Well, you want me? Well, I don't think it matters who's in parliament as long as they want to be there and they're passionate and they care about the country. I really don't care what sex you are. Sorry, it's how I feel.
It shouldn't have anything to do with sex. No.
Well,
but we had Topher here interviewed a few weeks ago on a Monday, and Tuesday night they arrested him. And so he got arrested.
Watch out tomorrow, Monica. Watch out tomorrow.
Oh, God, no.
I'll see a stormtrooper come through the green screen. Yeah.
No. I think they'll be a bit more careful with me next time, maybe.
I don't think they could. I think that if they haven't learned their lesson now, I mean, I think you're untouchable. Or you'd think that from a common sense point of view. And can we move now to what's happening in the state right now? Because right now, you're in Victoria, right now in Melbourne, we have an apartheid system. Now, there's a lot of people are going, oh, I don't like that word. And they don't like the word segregation, and they don't like the word discrimination because it upsets them. But that's what we have. I think they've got a long term to try explain it, but basically that's what we have. And Dan has just come out today and said, I think I put it here, everyone in Victoria has to be vaccinated, be part of the society and part of the economy, and basically there's no end date. So he's locking the vaccinated out for ages. And what are your thoughts about that?
Well, he can say whatever he wants. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. So he just says these things, right? And we'll just have if we have to, we'll have a shadow economy, and we will find a way to live our lives the way that we want to. even if it's a small amount of people. And I will just tell the audience that I've been walking around Victoria, Melbourne, and I haven't been asked once. And I also went to a strip of shops. I guess I won't say because I don't want the police to annoy them, but there was hardly anyone wearing masks. Not that I'm encouraging people, not that I'm encouraging people not to wear masks. I'm just letting you know what I saw. And also a lot of restaurants were refusing to have sit-down customers because they didn't want to ask their staff if they were vaccinated. They didn't want to ask customers if they were vaccinated. So they've decided to just keep doing work that way. I also know some schools that have continued to do online learning instead of asking for medical information as well. And what people are realizing is they actually are legally in some really hot water when they start asking people for private medical information and not storing it correctly. And I think the message has gotten out there from alternative medias that actually the government's not going to protect you when you get sued for wrongfully asking for information or storing it wrong. So actually, I got to tell you, and I know I'm always positive, but I just need to tell you that I think it was a massive scare campaign, and it's failing miserably. It's failing. The big businesses are probably asking, and there's probably some smaller people who feel like it's the duty of, care to Australia to do this in Victoria, but just go somewhere else then, okay? Like, it's actually, sorry, Dan Andrews, fail. That's all I'm going to say.
Both my kids have lost their jobs at McDonald's.
Sorry. I meant from a customer's point of view.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, maybe it's the big organisations. Like you say, the smaller organisations might be doing it, but some of the bigger ones are.
But
a friend of mine was going around Northcote too, and it was like really serious about, like, it's all about inclusiveness and anyone can come in. It's all LGBTIQ friendly, but if you're not vaxxed, you can't come in. I mean, how do you sit with that inconsistency?
Well, when you can convince people of things that are so inconsistent like that, well, they're just completely controllable, aren't they, unfortunately? Because it makes no sense. They fight for rights of the minority groups, and then now they're not fighting for the rights of a non-minority group.
We found out yesterday Lifeline is getting rid of volunteers who aren't vaccinated, even though the numbers of people calling in Lifeline are higher. There's other groups that basically support, charity groups that are all about discrimination, that are discriminating and getting rid of people. One thing I heard today that, because I had a few gags lit up for you today, I just thought it'd be funny, interesting to see if Monica could tell a joke, because, there's just interesting to hear another side. But I met a young person today and I asked them how they were going. They're only 17. And they said, fine. I said, no, come on, how are you going? And they actually said, I've never been so hated, and it's not from their friends; it's from their society. And I thought we started this to apparently protect older people in the nursing homes, even though they'd had this big Royal Commission where it proved they didn't give a flying F about people in nursing homes. But we had this to save old people, and now this is what we're doing to our young people. And there seems to be, the society doesn't seem to care. I think the people do, but the system doesn't seem to care. And I think we're setting up a system where you'll have young people, even if they get jabbed, the second jab, they're coming up to the third jab. If we continue like this, they'll go, I don't want to be a part of this, and there's nowhere else to go. I mean, WA, that guy's just going off like he's trying to beat Dan, and it's a really dangerous place for our young people, for their souls.
Mark McGowan.
Can you make this into a question, Damien?
Well, I can just answer.
I'm sort of zoning out. I'm so tired.
I'm just sick of it. You know what I mean? It's just like, where is our moral compass? Who do we care for? It's just like, it's
really confusing, because this is the same argument that you would use is actually the same argument that they use. So it's very confusing. So, for example, they said that we have to do all this stuff to protect the elderly, even though the elderly are really close to dying. Okay, so the average age of COVID death is actually higher than the average age of death. So
that's correct. That's
sorry. I just sometimes satire is finished, because everything is now satire. Truth is satire.
Who are we actually saving, right? We're saving people who are about to die anyway. But, and I'm not being unempathetic, I'm just telling the truth. But then you've also got, so they call us selfish for trying to live our lives, and we're young and healthy, and we've got our whole lives ahead of us. They call us selfish for not trying to save the person who's about to die. But I'm sorry to say this, and I'll say it, but it's the actual opposite. If you're 85 and you're asking me to risk and sacrifice my entire life, sorry, but you're the selfish one. You've lived your life. You've lived your life.
Do you know what, though? I'm yet to see an old person come on and say that. An old person. What I have is people go, I'm trying to protect my grandmother, so they say it for that. My generation. I actually think it's my generation that's lost, not all of it, but some have lost the bottle. I used to work in nursing homes when I first came to Melbourne for about 6 years. I'm telling you, those people would not even think of going, the young people in prison, are you kidding? Let them out. Yeah. These people were there waiting to die. I remember a guy saying to me, every night I pray to die, every morning I wake up, and he's just sitting there waiting to die. They would not want society shut up, the economy destroyed, and young people basically self-harming them at record numbers to keep them safe. That's just...
Do we really believe those 800 deaths were all COVID too? Do we?
Well,
is that...
They died with a positive PCR test, so that's pretty questionable. I don't know who...
I don't even think that's the case, to be honest, because I remember the guy got asked, because before I did this, I was doing question. That's what started me questioning, because we had a young friend die, and the autopsy took 2 months. And then they were doing these people, we had 36 people die last night, or some number like that. And I'm thinking, well, where did you do the autopsy?
No,
at Aldi? You just race it through, COVID. I mean, it just didn't make sense.
Well,
that's
no
where
autopsy.
I started to question everything.
Yeah, well, the Australian death rate stayed the same, according to the Bureau of Statistics. There's been no real difference in the Australian death rate.
Do you know guess how many people under the age of 60 have died with COVID? Guess.
7?
Are you going to say 0?
5, like 5.
I was close. 7. That was good.
Like, come on. Not 500, not 5,000.
You always exaggerate, Damien. You always
exaggerate. Pump it up a little bit, Yeah.
So I don't know who we're protecting. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing.
5. You're serious now, 5.
And it's mandated for people from to work over the age of 18 in jobs, and literally they have no risk of COVID. So it's really quite strange.
So Monica, you're really brave. Obviously, you've went through that trauma of sitting in solitary for 22 days. Has it affected your willingness now to come out to protests and address protests again? Because the criticism I've heard about protests is there's no leadership, and I've said to people, well, that's because they keep arresting the leadership, and I think that's a deliberate tactic. Has it? Affected you at all in wanting to come back out again and take that leadership role, which is so desperately needed, knowing what they're capable of doing to you?
Well, that is why there is a lack of leadership, because they're scared of going to prison. So and I tried to negotiate with police, and I'm about to try again, and it's going to be public, but they won't negotiate. So how are leaders supposed to even want to come forth if it's not going to do anything? So I kind of understand why there's no leadership. But what I will say is it hasn't scared me. However, I have realized that you can make a difference without necessarily being on the ground all the time. Now, what I have created what we and my staff have created is these community groups, and I get videos and pictures of them doing activism within their communities every weekend. And so basically what I do is channel resources and ideas to them, and they can do with that what they want. I don't have to be everywhere for everyone, for everything. However, I do feel that fear of missing out when there's a protest and I'm not there. It's pretty hard for me because I was always at them, but I can go to them in the capacity of a reporter, but I'm still probably a little bit traumatized, which is fair.
So did they win in that respect? Did they win? Did they achieve what they wanted to achieve then?
Well, no, because the movement is bigger than me. I mean, I was in prison and there was the Westgate Bridge protest, and I was like, see, Judge, I didn't do that. I'm here. I don't even have phone privileges because I lost my phone privileges because I was trying to run my organization from within.
So how did you hear about it in there? That's sort of interesting. How did you hear about it?
Mainstream media. They were live streaming it all day. But the point is,
you had access to the internet in your cell? No,
just TV.
All right. Yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
my
it's
God.
they're
How did you survive for 3 weeks?
no, I know. No, I didn't have a TV for the first 2 weeks, so it was good. But the what I mean is like the movement has a mind and a spirit of its
Yeah.
own, and it's growing so big, and it's not just me. Like there's Red Union, there's you guys, there's all these Topher Field, there's documentaries coming out.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, there's things happening all the time, and I'm like, how did I not know about this? 6 months ago, I would have known about almost everything before it happened because like had a hand in everything. I don't have my hand in everything anymore, and things are happening.
What did you do to get a privilege to get a TV in the third week? What was that? What was the reasoning behind that?
I just kept asking, but there's like this fine line between like being annoying and not asking enough. You know, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? So, but apparently prisoners keep breaking the TVs, so they keep running out of TVs. And I was like, my family will send one. Can you just give me a like? But I'm glad they didn't for the first 2 weeks because I really got to think and write and stuff like that. And then, yeah.
You're saying that from a positive point of view, though, but in actual fact, they arrest you in the car, they throw you in this cell, this small cell, no phone, basically no TV, nothing, and basically disconnect you from the world. I mean, that is Gestapo, North Korea bullshit. This is Melbourne. Did you ever feel when you were in there that you're going, this is Melbourne, what the hell is going on? Or were you just prepared for it?
I mean, I've been thinking that for a while. I mean, I was in the back of a divvy van last October for 45 minutes with no charge as well. So it wasn't my first interaction with police, but obviously it was a bit extreme, wasn't it? But
you were a threat to the system. Pauline, it's the same thing happened to Pauline Hanson.
Yeah.
She was a threat to the system. She got 11% of the national vote. That's extraordinary. That's as much as the Greens get with their campaigning for years and years and years. She came and got 11% of the vote. Then she was in jail. Then she was exonerated and she was out of jail, and no one's ever really said anything. And I'm sure she's been a changed person. She was in there longer than 22 days. Anyway.
Yeah, and Howard took a lot of policies on, but she was in the main thing. She got charged with something, but you're basically. What the charge was incitement, right? Based on what? Because I heard people were saying, well, what did she do? I mean, if you're not allowed to mention that, don't mention it.
I don't care. I mean, like there was a few things on my social media that they claimed were constitute incitement. And just to help your audience out, I'll tell them that incitement is basically like if you go for a drive with your friend and you encourage them to park in a no parking zone and they get a ticket, that's pretty much incitement. That's what I'm being charged with.
So you weren't going around saying setting up you weren't charged with starting a protest. You were basically said you'd put some things like that young pregnant woman that was taken out of her house.
Not even
that.
No, I've never organised one of those big protests, and I have organised events before, and they've gone really well. They've been police liaised, no arrests, no pepper spray. So everyone in the movement knows that I don't organise any of those. So they actually don't have much.
3 weeks solitary confinement because they wanted to destroy your party for something you might have put on, like everyone else probably shared on Facebook, something you just put on Facebook.
Yeah, someone else's poster or something, and I'm like, I'm going here to report who's coming with me, that sort of thing. That's what it is. That's what it was.
Did everyone hear that? That's Australia. That's where we're living. That's Australia.
That's because you were threatening the system. You threaten the system. You threaten the status quo. You threaten the power structure, and they're not going to have it. They're not going to have it.
And you've got to ask yourself, ask Australians, are you okay with that? This is it. This is someone, a young woman, standing up, creating a political party, which is absolutely we're allowed to do, having an effect. And then our Lord and Masters, who you all praise, throws her in jail for 3 weeks trying to break her. And
the corporate state elite didn't care. Did you find anyone from the Liberal Party reaching out to you, fighting hard to get you released to restore democracy?
People overseas were pretty. I mean,
people overseas.
Well, George Christensen, he's a national.
Absolutely.
So Craig Kelly, of course, and I'm sure there's some Liberals that would also have felt pretty bad for me, but I don't know if they said anything out loud. But it's weird. I mean,
Pauline was election funding fraud, so that was a bigger thing. It turned out
no, but she was exonerated from it.
No, I'm saying that. But this is even minor. This is what we're all doing.
Well, that was 22 days. Pauline was in for
Yeah, no, I get you.
a
But what
year.
I'm saying is,
Yeah.
this is a Facebook social media post or something like that, because no
But
one knew what it was. That was another thing. Everyone think, what was she doing? Some
Oh.
people said, I got told, oh, she's been telling people to go here and go here. It was all hearsay because no one knew. You know, and that's when people
Right.
are saying, oh, why is she on the right side of the car? She set this up. She was sitting in the passenger seat, the idiot. So there's all people, and that's what they're doing. That's why they're saying that the old woman that was pepper sprayed was a man dressed up, because they're trying to exonerate their lord and masters, when in actual fact,
Wow.
no, they pushed over an old woman, they pepper sprayed her in the
spoken to her.
face,
She's
and
a real person.
and you
Yeah.
let them get away with it because you said F all about it. So
Have you
that's
thought
what
about
actually
seeking
happened.
justice in this respect, Monica? Have you thought about taking the police to court for what they've done?
It's weird. I'm actually
State?
not that angry at them, but in saying that, I will when the time is right. And there, I do have like 2 other cases against Victoria Police. Like I have a lot of cases going at the moment. So I fundraised money for the first protest where they opened fire on us. Well, the rubber bullets and stuff. So we have a plaintiff there, and we're launching that court case really soon. So actually, what happened with when I was in prison, my partner and my family did a fundraiser for my legal costs, and they raised way too much money for my legal fees. So I emailed, which is great, but I emailed all the donators and I asked them, look, do you trust me to spend your money on cases that I think we can set precedences and do the right thing?
We've
And
got
I-
a tip jar. I'm just saying, we do have
yeah,
a tip
well,
jar.
it all helps, and I said if you
Yeah.
want to get
No, I was
refunded,
actually
you
trying to
can.
get some of it, but anyway.
But so the police have then basically created this fund that then is going to go and fund maybe 4 or 5 great cases. So that's great. And if they,
So there's some
someone-
fight back, because that's to hold them to account for what they've done. Because
Absolutely.
they just use the system as punishment otherwise, and we just go,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
well,
I mean, I think it's unprecedented from this point of view. I mean, I know they're talking about Pauline Hanson, who actually got in power, and then they were trying to destroy her. But you were just starting a political movement. I haven't heard of that before. I mean, not in a Western democracy. Can I ask, were you a different person that came out after those
About
3
Trump?
weeks before you went in?
Interesting question.
Oh, there you go, Damien.
Am I a different person? Well, yes. Yes, you can't go through something like that and not be different. I think I'm stronger, and I think that I obviously have a bigger profile internationally, and I also feel like I feel like more empowered to speak because I have this story now. So it's like I feel really grateful that I was given the opportunity to be put in that position, that now people want to talk to me more, and I can talk about other things as well, not just prison, but it gives me something to start with, and it's kind of that wow factor. And I didn't ask for it, but I don't.
You suffered
I'm
for
glad
it. You've suffered for it. Yeah.
It's like, don't go out of your way to get a PR stunt, right? But if it comes at your doorstep, you may as well use it.
It's not the fact that you got arrested that what people want to talk about. It's the fact that you held off. You wouldn't give in to their demands,
that's right.
and you stayed in things. That's what's commendable, because the country is starving for courage.
So they
starving
inadvertently
for leadership.
amplified your voice.
And that's what you did. You basically, they went to crush you, and instead they honed you into this stronger symbol.
Yeah.
And so, it's amazing. I mean, but Dan must be just smashing his head into a wall over that one.
Oh, it gave me a lot of peace in prison to think about the fact that they didn't expect it, and that they're probably like, oh, crikey, what do we do now?
Yeah. And just saying, just for Damien and I, we actually can't work because we're vaccinated. So if you do want to donate to keeping our show on air, it's in the comments.
Right, and you guys should.
Monica, did you feel that you had that sense of moral authority?
In prison, or just
Or just generally speaking, yeah, but even to withstand that sentence that you didn't know how long it was going to be for because you weren't actually serving a sentence.
Yeah,
as such.
it's look, like I said, I worked a lot on self-development in my late 20s, and so I'm not this way on accident. And my family are really strong. My grandparents,
Your senior parent, yeah.
they hid Jews in the basement during the Nazi time. So it's kind
Wow.
of I guess you could say it's culturally in me. But also, look, in prison, I had so much peace because I knew that I could sleep at night knowing that I most likely did the right thing, but they probably can't. And I don't care if I'm starving and cold, but no, I did the right thing. That to me is easier for me to live with than having everything that I want and not knowing if I'm in the wrong or the right. So
Did you have any other interactions with any of the other inmates while you were in there?
oh yeah, gosh, that was the worst part. Yeah, because I was in the quarantine facility. The reason I was in there for 14 days, no matter what, was because I didn't want to get a test. Yeah, so but everyone from the streets come in to that unit, and so you can't see anyone, but you can hear everything because there's a vent at the bottom of the door for airflow.
Yeah.
And so they're all on substances and things like that, angry that they got caught or whatever. And it was a bloody zoo in there. I'm telling you, that was actually more traumatic than being in there myself. Like 3 o'clock.
Did they know who you were? Did they know you were in there? You would have been a curiosity to them, I would imagine.
No, I planned. I didn't tell them because I didn't know how long I was going to be in prison for, and so I was planning for having to go out to the open prison, and I didn't want anyone to think that thought that I was more special than them or that I wasn't a criminal or whatever.
So did you have a backup story that you were going to use? Did you have something that you were working on?
I actually
Is that why you were going starving yourself so you could look like an ice addict?
I actually thought about a backup story, and then I realized I just couldn't live a lie. So
what was your backup story going to be? Come on, just wax a lyrical with us a little bit here.
No,
what did you
people will take it out of
What'd you come up with?
No, agreed. No, don't give them. They got enough.
I'll tell you offline.
It's good copy. It's good copy.
But it had something to do with a jealous girlfriend scenario, you know.
Oh, okay. Oh, avenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all I'll say.
Were you surprised by your own strength? Because that's a real test of strength. Or did you know you'd cope? Because just not knowing in the days going by, not everyone can do it. Well, you think that.
I just knew, like, once you're there's no way of getting out, right? So I'm pretty good at playing mind tricks with myself. And so I just, look, I didn't know that it was going to be as easy. Like, it was actually quite easy for me because I had a routine and I exercised and I wrote and I did stuff, you know. But I thought I would be maybe more traumatized even. But yeah, I don't know. I knew I could do it because once I made the decision, there was no going back. Well, actually, that's not true. They asked me to sign the papers many times. So I actually had the opportunity to get out many times. And they even tried to convince me to sign them. And I still said, but anyway, was I surprised? I don't know. Like I said, I think I was prepared for it because, like I said, I had the daydream 3 days before. So I really think God, that's where my faith comes in. Yeah. That God prepared me for this. And I felt like this is exactly what I'm supposed to do right now. Just stay strong. You'll be fine. Yeah.
So given the globalist forces that confront us, Monica, where do you see Australia heading in the next few years?
It really depends on what happens in the next year or so. I think the federal elections. The federal election is going to be a big sign, I think. But then, of course, there's the concern of the censorship or any fraud or whatever. So there's lots of things to consider. But I obviously am like crazily optimistic because it's just how I decide to be. So I just think that it's going to be a bit hard for the next year or two, but I think that we're going to win our freedoms back and it's going to be better than it's ever been. And if I'm wrong, well, bugger. But I'm going to keep trying until we get there. Or as
so
close
that's the fight you're on, to win our freedoms back.
Yeah, or be a part of it. Yeah. And like I wanted to say before that actually
I didn't mean that just you alone, but that's you're with the growing army of people who are saying, no, where we're going is not where our souls want to go.
Well, it's not a really good life. Like I don't see. There's no other option now. You know how the most dangerous and most effective person in the world is someone who's got nothing left to lose.
Back to the corner, yeah.
Well, this is interesting. You know, like we got this Julius May here just before we go. So he's saying pro-choice. I believe in pro-choice. Julius means business can also make choices. Respect business that choose vaccinate customer employees. But Julius, why don't you go through history and find a country that had a segregated apartheid system that benefited the soul of that country? You know, we don't have to have that. You know, that's what I'm saying. It breeds hate, and we've already seen it on the first day with the thing with Avi. But it is more. It's going to happen. The anger's going to go.
What if a Christian? I'd say to Julius, what if a Christian organisation decided it didn't want to serve homosexuals? Would Julius still say the same thing?
We know what happens with that. Or what if a club didn't let in HIV positive people into the club?
Yeah, that's right.
A cafe didn't let a Muslim into the cafe.
Yeah.
Why?
And if you have a child or you have a grandchild, if the grandchild decides, I don't want to.
Julius has thought
I don't want to have this thing in my system, and then they're going out there and they're not allowed to enjoy your things. They're a second-class citizen. I mean, the most amazing thing was a psychologist. My friend was going to some medical specialist, and the medical specialist said, "Are you vaccinated?" She goes, "No, I don't want it." He goes, "But you'll be a second-class citizen." And so this is what we're creating, second-class citizens.
Yeah, it's been normalised so easily.
To fight against something, we've got a 99.6% chance of getting over. You know, basically, we're scared of acne. You know, and we're destroying everything before it. And so people who can justify division and hatred might feel good about themselves, but that's what you're doing. You're actually creating somewhere where basically I don't think most of our children would want to live. They want to live in the same freedoms we were gifted. We didn't even know we had the freedoms. We didn't know. We took them for granted. But
acne killed me socially when I was 16. Absolutely wiped me out. Shocking.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good. But what are we going to be? What are we going to be afraid of next? I wonder. You know, like when COVID dies down or whatever, are we going to be scared of the leaves blowing in the wind?
Marburg. They're already planning Marburg.
Right,
I've heard.
Right. And living in fear just doesn't suit most humans. It's not healthy.
It does make you sick. Oh, it makes you really sick. Yeah. Mentally,
Yeah,
spiritually, really
you
sick.
go,
It makes the culture sick that you walk around in. But you're talking about federally, like a hope for federal elections. But what could you hope to achieve federally? Because Dan will still be in power, and we see obviously with Scott Morrison, you think they'd be politically opposed to each other. Doesn't seem to be able to stop Dan doing whatever he wants to do, or is allowing him to do it. So what do you hope could even happen federally to bring about a change?
I am. I'm sorry.
I think it's just that it will be a sign of what is to come in the other states. Like Victoria would be next November. Like if, for example, nothing changes, okay, and it's like 60% Labor and 40% Liberal and a few Greens, or obviously the maths is wrong there because there'd be other people in there. But you know what I mean? Like if nothing,
I know what you mean.
changes,
The status quo pretty much stays the same. Yeah,
that would be a really frightening, really. That would be hard to be naively positive about that. That would really break.
Here, Aaron Marsh has said, "You are scared, Michael." Yeah, I am. I am scared. I am scared that the state is sanctioning hate. And
healthily so, Michael. And I'm not.
I'm not. Yeah, for the thing of health. I'm not a like a distinguished historian, but I've seen enough History Channel to know that that's not a good thing. So I am scared. I'm scared for my country. I'm scared for my children. I'm scared for my friends' kids. I'm scared by the lack of courage in my people to even question why. To just go, why are we doing this? Instead, you're just all doing it. We had a plebiscite to change the marriage laws, and we're just bringing in segregation and just going, okay, let's do it. As long as I get my coffee. Anyway, look, we've taken up an hour.
But you might be scared, Michael.
Monica.
You still have the courage. You still have the courage to do something. You still have the courage to become active, express those fears, express those concerns, unlike so many other people. So you're showing great courage despite
that's healthy fear.
Your fears. Yeah.
That's healthy fear, because fear actually drives humans to be greater. It's the fear that's driven by lies. That's a bigger problem, I would say. But anyway,
and everything that's been done in the past, every evil ever has not been done by evil men. It's been done by bureaucrats and silent people doing the work of evil men, and the silence covering that.
Like the business.
And that's where we are now. So you have to speak up. You have
Michael
to say.
And I had
a lot of
lunch
people
today
are
with
covering us and saying,
a group of Jewish people, and they're talking about getting out of Australia.
Yeah.
Lots of them.
They fled to Australia.
I know a lot of people.
In the late 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
They fled from Hungary and he was telling me these terrible stories, and he says, now I'm frightened, I'm going back.
It's crazy. Yeah. I actually think Australia
in their living memory, Hungary. Sorry, you're going to say
it's unsafe now. I'm just going to say I think Australia is unsafe, and if you can leave,
well, you're
if you
proof.
Want to, you can.
You're proof of that, Monica. You stood up and they threw you in solitary confinement and tried to break you. You're proof that Australia is a frightening place. Because in order to stop the rise, and that's why when we were at St Kilda the other day, you had people sitting in the cafe on one side, and not a lot of people, the restaurant wasn't full, and you had all these people sitting on the other side on the streets and the gap, all the police there was everywhere. The police were trying to, they didn't get aggressive, but what it was like, these people sitting down, they were courage. They were people wanting freedom. They were integrity. And the police were trying to keep that as though somehow the system was scared that this courage would spread like a virus through the city and people would suddenly go, oh, F this, come on, this is bullshit, and we just get back to being normal. I think that's why they come down so hard in huge numbers, because there was another protest on about free the refugees, and they only had like 2 police there, and we had everyone, horses, bear cats, helicopter, everything, about a few people sitting down having picnic on the things because they're not allowed to eat at the cafes.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, I'm going to let you go, Monica. Do you want to say anything nice to her before we go, Damien?
Thanks, Monica, for coming on. It's great to have you on.
And I'm going to say the same. Monica, I'm going to let you say something to the whole audience that's watching and forever as a symbol of hope, because that's what you are. You're a symbol of hope. So,
sure.
Glow.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone for their support while I was in prison. Obviously, I could feel that energy, so thank you so much. But also, I came up with a quote when I was in there, and that is that during times of psychological warfare, collective courage of conviction will be our strongest weapon. Because like you guys have said earlier on in the piece, is that they're trying to break our spirit and our mind, because then we're going to be easier to control, and we'll just give up and just be like, yeah, all right, fine, I'll just do this, whatever. So I think the way that we're going to win is not with the sword in this war, it's with our minds. And so it's really important that I know that sometimes I can come across as naively positive, but it's because I have to be like that to continue my work. But in your own way, I think if you can all just be positive, even when it seems crazy, please do. And secondly, it's time to reach down and find that little bit of power that you actually already have inside you, but you just haven't bothered to find it yet. And start practicing how to use it, because you'll find that you'll be a lot happier when you find that courage that you already have in you. Everyone around you will be happier. And we need you to start practicing, because it's crunch time and we need every single person on the ground with a little bit more power.
Crunch time now. This is day 3 of an apartheid city. This is this. I'm going out with Patty Hearst singing a Dylan song. And some words. And good night, Australia. Monica, it's been an absolute joy.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I
can't wait to meet you in a coffee outside somewhere while the police are arresting you, and I can go, oh, I know her.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Take care.
No
Bye.
worries. Thanks, Monica. Cheers.
Bye.
Hear my darling young one. Heard the sound of the thunder that roared. And what did you hear, my darling young one? Heard the sound of the thunder that roared out a warning. Heard the roar of a wave that could drown the whole world. Heard one person laughing, heard many people laughing. Heard nobody listening. Heard one person starve, heard many people laughing. Heard the song of a poet who died in the gutter. Heard the sound of a clown that cried in the alley. It's a heart, it's a heart, it's a heart, it's a heart, it's a heart ring. Gonna fall.